Yeah, excited to be game week. You know, it's kind of nice that the game falls on a Saturday, so we can just treat it like a normal game week in terms of our prep. Excited to be one of 12 teams remaining in the playoffs, and mid-December playoff football, first time for college football, so pretty exciting. And our guys are working hard to be ready to go up and compete.
Questions?
Heard you guys playing Mo Bamba, but besides that, how can you try to simulate the environment that you're about to walk into?
Yeah, I mean, we'll do the best we can. You know, we went in the indoor and cranked up the noise for half of practice for the offense. And you do the best you can. You know, fortunately, we've not been in this environment, and so we've had some good environments. I mean, even the championship game a week ago is helpful, but there's really nothing you can do to prepare for it. You just got to get there. You got to adjust to it and go compete. And so we're doing all the normal things you do to try to prepare. But obviously, it's a huge home field advantage, and that's why they earn the right to be at home.
Coach, we've made a lot of, and today's obviously a beautiful day to do anything, and we've made a huge deal out of the weather that's expected up in State College on Saturday. Anything you can do to try to prepare your kids? And I know Charlotte was kind of chilly, but is there anything you can do for that one?
Yeah, I'm disappointed. We had a really nice day today. Leading up to the game in Charlotte, we had cold days, which we go in the morning, so we were able to practice in 30s and 40s, and I think that helped us. I don't think weather was an issue in Charlotte when it was around 35, 37 when the game ended, and I think our guys handled it great. You know, this is going to be different. It'll probably be 25 or somewhat around there, and I don't really know. So no, I mean, here's the deal: they're playing in the same way that we are. I mean, they got to play in it just like we do, and I don't think they've played a game on December 21st at home before either. So I don't think the weather's a big deal. You know, both teams are playing in the same conditions, whether there's snow or not snow, whether it's really cold or just kind of cold. It is what it is, you know. And like we told our guys, I mean, these guys, and I know our guys do, and I know their guys do, aspire to play in the NFL. They aspire to play championship playoff football, all right, which we're getting to do right now. Well, this January, guess what? The playoffs are going to go through Arrowhead, Kansas City, and they're going to go through Buffalo, and they're going to go through Lambeau, just like they do most years. And you're either on one of those teams if you're in the playoffs, or you're playing one of those teams. And the best in the world do it. And I know the Chiefs last year had that game that was like 10 degrees or whatever. And Rashee Rice, who had played here, didn't like cold weather. You know what he did? He went out and played really well. And so our guys have to do that. The weather is only going to be an issue if we allow it to be an issue. So we know it's going to be really cold. It's going to be really cold for them as well. So it's our 11 versus their 11, and that's going to decide the game.
Rhett, with Kevin, obviously, local kid, and you got their quarterback has been there from day one with them. It's the only first-round matchup where both quarterbacks are, at the same school that they started with. How special was that in this day and age of so many transfers and guys moving around? And just talk about Kevin.
I didn't know that. It's a good stat. So we're the only two teams that have the quarterback went to that school and has stayed at that school.
For this first round.
Okay. Obviously, we're excited, for Kevin to be a Dallas high school player that came here and has been here for the duration, and that's really special. I think that's cool. We had a couple years where we had great transfer quarterbacks, and now we've gone on a streak of a couple years where we're playing with the high school players we've recruited, and that's neat. Drew Aller, I remember when he came out, he's a big, strong NFL-armed kid that has played really well for them, and so it's not the norm anymore, to your point, if 2 of the 12 is all there is. I don't want to correct you. I think Cade Klubnik came out of high school.
No, this is the only matchup.
Oh, okay, the only matchup. Got you.
Yeah.
So
6 and 6.
It's neat. I think what's really cool, and I know it's not to your question, is the two teams from the ACC that made it into the playoffs are playing with Texas high school quarterbacks, and I think that just shows the coaching in the state of Texas and what the Texas high school coaches do. And that's why we take a backseat to no one with our high school coaching in this state, and then us and Texas are in the playoffs, so 2 football teams from the state of Texas made the playoffs in the first year. I think all that's really cool, and it just shows you why high school football is the best in our state.
You're heading into game number 14, and there's potential there could be even more. What's the conversation like before the season on how to approach the year physically when there is that possibility of this many games when most players wouldn't have played for that many?
Yeah, I mean, it's your bodies are all beat up. All teams and staffs are pretty much on empty right now, but I mean, if you're one of the 12 teams that's in the playoffs, you get a boost of adrenaline that will carry you. You know, I mean, I know I can speak for our team, and I'm sure Penn State and the other 10 teams feel the same way. Just you're in the playoffs, and it's no different than the NFL teams get to do it, and they play 17, 18 weeks, and then if they make the playoffs, they find a way, right? I think we did a good job getting our guys through the season. You know, we had talked a lot about how we're going to play 10 Power 4 games. Never done that. We ended up playing 11 because we got the bonus game. And, you know, our guys went, 9-2 in that window. So they did really well physically. And I think the way we were able to handle the off weeks, but also, you know, when we had maybe the second, third, fourth game in a row, we would take some things off in practice, much like they do in the NFL from the physicality standpoint, and try to get them the game fresh. So I think Coach Grizz does a great job in strength and conditioning. I think our guys and our staff has handled it well. We didn't employ anything different preparing to be in the playoff because, one, you don't know if that's going to happen, and two, when you get here, I think the reality of that you're in the playoff kind of takes care of that for you.
Coach, this is a general college football question. We're seeing kids now in the portal. The timing of the portal is so awkward. We're seeing kids now who are on playoff teams putting their name in the portal and maybe not even going to participate. Is there any way around that?
Yeah.
Ideally, if you could set it up, how could you do that to avoid
Not this way. I mean, it's terrible. I feel so awful for our kids and kids around the country. You know, we talk about making a system that is all great for them, but we haven't. I mean, that's part of your job as adults is to do what's best for young people, not what they want necessarily. And they don't want this. Yes, they want the ability to transfer and go where they want to go if they don't like their situation. Yes, they want the ability to make money on their name, image, and likeness. Neither one of those are bad things. There's no other sport at all that has free agency in the season. It's sad. It's terrible. You hear the story about their backup quarterback saying, "I don't have a choice." That's wrong. That's unacceptable. That's not okay.
So how do you do
He shouldn't have to make that decision. Preston here is doing the same thing. Now he has chosen to stay with us, and we're working with him, but it's still a juggling act for him. Oh, and let's not forget they're in finals right now. So yeah, the real easy thing is you don't have a transfer portal in December. That's the real easy answer, and it solves all the problems. Like, why in the world would we put kids in a position where they got to decide, do I transfer or play in the playoff? Do I transfer or play in my bowl game? You know, and it scholastically doesn't make sense either because your years end in May, not in December. And so we gotta look long and hard at the schedule. Coaches have been saying this for the last 3 or 4 years with all these changes. And what happens is we just make all these random changes because we don't want to get sued or we don't want to do this or we don't want to do that. And we don't think about the long-term effects it has on the young people that we're supposed to be serving. So I hate it. I hate it for our players. I told them that Monday. I hate it that you get a chance to play in the college football playoff, yet you are either forced to decide, do I go in the portal or not? Or let's call it like it is. People are bombarding our roster trying to pick people off our roster, and we're trying to focus on the playoff. Oh, and they got finals. Oh, and it just goes on and on and on. So, yeah, it's real easy. Don't have a transfer portal in December.
When do you move? With the
Go to the spring. Go to the
So
spring.
is the start of the scholastic year around January 10th, 15th? Is that not the problem?
Well, ours is January 21st.
Okay, so
Everyone's different. But the start of the scholastic year is in August,
Okay.
and the end is in May. It's not December and January.
So ideally, where would you put it?
Well, I'm not going to get into that. I'm worried about the playoff, but I wouldn't put it where it is. And we need one portal window, and we need to look long and hard at what's best overall for the young people that it affects and that it's supposed to benefit. Because right now there's too many issues that don't give them the true benefit they deserve. So I would say sometime in the spring is best. And then we probably need to look at going into an NFL model and spring ball. Like, how about we have OTAs after the portal closes like they do after the draft? But long and short of it, the easy answer is don't have free agency, don't have a portal window, and put kids in the position that they have to either make those decisions or be incredibly distracted by the environment.
You mentioned roster being bombarded and things like that. On the flip side, Kevin makes an announcement that he's locked in. One, how important is that? What does that kind of mean in the grand scheme of things? And for him to just be able to say, all right, there's nothing.
Yeah, I mean, it's really important to us and to him to have someone who's already, I see, preseason Heisman watch list and all that stuff for next year, and we're not even done with this year, but it's big for our program. It's big for the continuity and consistency here. I think it's big for him. He wanted to be here. There was never a doubt about that. But again, same thing. It's unfair that he has to be figuring that out between the end of a championship game and a playoff game, but it is what it is. And so we all, as coaches and as adults, we're easy. We can adapt. You make the system terrible. You make the rules hard. You make it you make it not probably flow the way it should. We can fix that, but it's the kids that aren't. They shouldn't have to be dealing with that. So, but glad that he always wanted to be here. Never wanted to be anywhere else. We were able to make that happen, and he was able to put that out there. Gets that off his shoulders, I know too.
So how fortunate was it for you that the one high school game that you went to see, he was on the other side?
Very, very. Because, I mean, I got hired on a Sunday night, talked to the team on a Monday morning, and I didn't go recruit at all Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of that week, which normally you would, but at that point, it was the first year of a portal at that point in the season, right? And so I was trying to keep our roster here intact. And it was like, okay, you got to go somewhere. And, everything happens for a reason. Timing was right. And it ended up the way it was supposed to. Kevin was meant to be here and be our quarterback, and really glad it worked out the way it did.
Was there any question for you on allowing the guys that are in the portal to play with you? I know coaches have different philosophies on that.
Yeah, no, I think it's different. I think every situation is different. I think if you had a kid who had been contributing and starting and all that, and then decided he just wants to leave, that you didn't want to leave, then it would be different. But if you have some, whether you call it walk-on players or maybe third team, fourth team type players that go, Coach, I want to be here, but like I do want to play, so I'm gonna put my name in the portal to go somewhere else we can play, and we're gonna help them. But I would love to finish through this deal. Then that to me makes sense. Even in a deal like Preston's given everything to this place. He's graduating this month or this weekend, I guess, and for what he's done. And he said he was adamant. He's like, no, I'm finishing. Like I want to finish if you'll let me. And I'm like, of course I'll let you. And I get it. It's hard if you're a coach. Do you let people who are leaving finish and all that? Again, every situation's different. But I think just doing right on each individual basis by the young man is the right thing to do. And we're not trying to create problems where there don't need to be problems. So we work with them. They can't miss what we need to get ready for the game. But like if, hey, we have 2 days where we're not practicing, they can take a visit somewhere, then so be it, right? And that's just kind of how we've handled it here.
Without going into game plan, how do you prepare for a defender like Tyler Warren and try and defend him with all the different ways that Penn State tries to use?
Up to work harder.
Which one? You talking about Tyler Warren?
Sorry.
Yeah, they're tied in?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you defend him. I think you try to just contain him and slow him down a little bit. He's going to get his. I mean, he's a matchup problem. If you play man, he's definitely a matchup problem. We had that with RJ Maryland in some ways. If you play zone, he's still a matchup problem because he's so big. And all zone becomes man once the ball's in the air anyways. And, whether you have one guy, 2 guys on him, and they do a really good job of moving him around. He plays a bunch of different places. So, it's kind of like when we had a Rasheed Rice. Like, he was going to get his catches, And so, obviously, we hope that we can keep him from being touchdowns and explosives. But, I mean, he's special. There's a reason he won the Mackey Award, and he can do all the things he can do. And he's got a big-time NFL career ahead of him. So, we definitely got to be aware of where he is. Rarely do you see a tight end where the offense kind of runs through them. And to some degree, that's what they do with him. So I don't think we're going to stop him by any means, but maybe we can make it hard on him. Maybe we can slow him down. Maybe we can keep him from just totally dominating the game and try to make some other guys have to make some plays.
Last question in person.
It's easy for us to talk about Kevin, the offense, Rashard, and all those guys, the receivers, what they're doing. Your defense has been really good this year. What have you seen in the development of the group, especially a group that has so many guys that had to come together and are transferred in and had to kind of build themselves
Yeah.
again?
No, the defense for us has been rock solid all year. We've all known that and talked about it, and I think a lot of guys did return from last year, but we did have plenty of transfers, particularly on the D line, come in, and they did a really good job conforming to the defensive culture that had been established by some of the older veterans, the Jonathan McGills, the Kobe Wilsons, the Elijah Roberts, and so on. So I think it's been a special group. I think it's all started up front with our D line, both in the run and pass game, and they've given us a chance every week we go out. And so I think you can see over the last 2 years how our program has shifted and changed with the emergence of a real defense. And so I think that's why it was a big deal that Scott Simons is sticking around, and hopefully everybody on that defensive staff, because you know, just like as a player, there's not a lot of substitute for experience. Well, as a staff, there's not a lot of substitute for the continuity that we have, and a lot of confidence. There's just a lot of confidence on that side of the ball, and it's come from the success they've been able to have. But the couple guys that came in did a nice job of buying into the culture and what we do here, and it's always special as a coach when you see guys come in and buy into what you ask them to do, and then it translates to success. And so that's been good to see.
All right, we're going to go to the Zoom portion now. Lawrence Thompson's going to announce who it is. If you're on the Zoom call, please say your name and affiliation.
First, we'll go to Andrea.
Rhett, I know this question is probably intuitive, but how important is it for you guys to be able to get off to a fast start on Saturday and avoid some of the mistakes we saw early on against Clemson in the ACC championship game?
Yeah, thanks, Andrea. I mean, it's really important. I mean, we always want to get off to a fast start, but I think more than anything, we just can't get off to a slow start, you know. And you know, we've talked about it a ton. What we did in the first quarter against Clemson really put us way behind the 8 ball there. But you know, I think the first quarter's big because starting fast is important in football games, anyways. And now we're on the road, 106,000 plus. The atmosphere is going to be electric. They're going to have all the momentum and adrenaline behind them. And so it's going to be important to, yes, we'd love to start fast, but also just hang in there and kind of get through that initial surge once the game starts and be, you know, in a good competitive game to where then we can settle down, and then it truly is just 11 on 11 and we can go play football and see how we stack up. So I think it is important for sure.
Next is Joe Smeltzer.
Hi, Coach. Thanks for the time. So you talked about Tyler Warren and how he's a difference maker on Penn State's offense. Abdul Carter on the defensive side is also an impact player. What has stuck out to you about number 11 watching him on film? And how do you prepare for a guy that has not only turned into an elite defensive end, but can also make an impact on other areas of the field, much like Warren can offensively?
Abdul Carter's the best defensive player we played in my time at SMU, based on the film I've seen. So he's a problem. And the thing is, he's not the only problem on their defense. They're really good on defense. The other couple of ends are really special. Like if they didn't have Abdul, we'd be worried about them. We are worried about them, but Abdul is so dominant. Their team speed stands out on defense. So, you know, you watch, like last year, he played more linebacker. So you watch, you know, game from last year and you see him at linebacker and he is just incredible. He's physical, he flies around and makes plays. And then they move him to defensive end this year and he's got as good a get off as anybody in college football. There's a reason he's a top 5, top 10 pick in the upcoming draft. And, you know, on top of it, our tackles have to deal with the noise of trying to hear the snap count. And so there's a lot of things in his favor that he doesn't need, on top of the fact that he's just probably as talented of a pass rusher as there is, but that's not all he is. He's an all-around player. And what really stands out to me is how his motor, he plays the game the right way. You got a lot of respect for how hard he plays. He'll chase down plays from the backside. So, you know, just like we got issues with Tyler Warren and a lot of other guys on their offense, we've got our work cut out for us on their defensive front and really their overall team speed on defense.
Next, we'll go Kevin Lundquist.
Rhett, I wanted to ask you a little bit about the emergence of Matthew Hibner. In this time that he's been on the field, pretty much after Stanford, what have you seen from him that's validated what you all thought of him when you brought him here from Michigan? And perhaps what has stood out that's gone beyond what you all were expecting from him, from this sample size?
Yeah, I mean, we thought he was this kind of a player. I thought Coach Woods did a good job identifying it and, you know, identifying him as a good fit. And then fortunately for us, he chose us and came here. And we always felt like he was an all-around every down player, you know, and that he could really help us in the run game where we needed a boost, but also could still make plays. And, you know, probably the first 4 or 5 games of the year, we were trying to figure out who we were offensively, obviously the quarterback situation, but even there, and, RJ was playing a little more tight end like he had done, and traditional tight end per se. And, Matt was also getting, acclimated to us and who we are and what we do on offense. And so, but we always kind of envisioned those guys on the field together in a perfect world. And really that's what we had started doing around the Florida State game, around the Louisville game, around the Stanford game when he got hurt, when RJ got hurt, is that, Matt was playing the more traditional tight end and RJ was playing more the flex tight end. And that allowed us to have both of them on the field, which gives you a lot of versatility. And they have different skill sets. But, when RJ went down, we had already kind of transitioned Matt to that role. It just changed. Maybe then, obviously, we didn't have them both to be on the field at the same time. So it maybe limited some of the stuff we could do in personnel packages. But, Matt started playing that way, once we started making that transition even short before RJ got hurt. And I think he's just shown he's a very reliable pass catcher. He can run. He made a great back shoulder touchdown catch the other day in the championship game on the seam ball. And he's obviously still very effective in the run game. So Matt's just a great all-around player. And, we're excited about him coming back next year because I think he'll continue to build on what he's done this year and show that he's an all-around threat as a tight end that I think is going to play at the next level.
Next, we'll go Devin Jackson.
Hey, Rhett. So I had a question about obviously your SMU defense. Run defense has been really stout this season. What's the challenge in facing two running backs and Katron Allen, Nick Singleton from Penn State that kind of bring different styles of running styles to the game?
Yeah, we have a challenge. I mean, when you run for 300 yards on Oregon, you're pretty good. And I remember recruiting Katron Allen when we were at Miami when he was coming out of high school. Big physical back, and both those guys have done a really nice job for him. And they complement each other with that 1-2 punch. I think what they do on offense so well is, and I know their OCs talked about it. It's kind of what I grew up under Gus Malzahn learning the philosophy of, look, we're going to do what we do. They end up running the same couple of run plays over and over. It's just they window dress it and get to it a bunch of different ways. And so whether they shift in motion or give you unique pictures to still run, inside zone or counter or stretch or whatever the run plays are, to them, they're running the same plays over and over again, but to the defense, they're presenting different pictures. And I think that's what good offenses do. And so that's the challenge. It's one thing to say, okay, we got to stop really good players with a really good O-line, and they have a big-time tight end that can hurt you in play action, and a quarterback, et cetera, so it's hard to just sell out to the run. That's hard enough. But then when they're going to give you different pictures, they're going to move and shift and do all the things they do to just gain just a slight advantage here or there, makes it even tougher. But that's the assignment. This game's going to come down to the same thing most of our games have come down to. The more physical team who can win the run game, the team that can value the football and the turnover margin, and the team that can be the most explosive or limit explosives usually is going to win the football game, and this one's going to be no different. So we got to find a way to slow those guys down and not let them just control the game flow at all times with what they want to do on offense.
Last question goes to Chris Finney.
Yeah, Rhett, you talked about Preston, his decision to stay and why he stayed, but just from a football perspective, how valuable is it to have your backup quarterback available in case something happens, especially going against a team that won't have its backup? Just from football, how important is it to have him?
Yeah, I mean, it's huge. You keep some continuity. As we all know, Preston's played a lot of football, won a lot of games. That's been a big deal for us all year. Even at Louisville when he went in and one play, throws a touchdown pass. So, we do have Keldrick Luster, who we have a lot of belief in. I mean, we think Keldrick's more than capable of going in the game and playing winning football right now, and we expect that to be the case next year as well. So, but to have the experience that Preston brings, it is definitely a positive for us in the event that we have to turn to our second guy, just because this environment and this stage that we're getting to play on is not your week 2 home game stage. So having that experience is definitely a plus for us.
Any last question here?
Hey, Coach, I'm from Fort Worth, and I wanted to ask.
I'm sorry, nobody's perfect.
I might use that.
You had to drive a long way over
I
here.
did.
I like
Good
the
to see
jacket.
you. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you. Tell my wife you said that. So, being around here for around SMU's evolution, you see a lot of people have had a big role in this steady climb. And one of them, I realize this coach is sort of a divisive figure, is Coach Dykes.
Yeah.
Can you speak to what that time period meant to the evolution and progression of this program? Because you were here for it.
Yeah, I don't think it's divisive at all. I think Sonny Dykes deserves a lot of credit for the part he played in our program getting to where it is. I said this over the last couple of years at different times, different ways probably, that I'm just blessed to be the coach at this time, but I'm benefiting, and our program now and our staff is benefiting from a couple decades of hard work. I mean, you look, whether you're talking about Forrest Gregg right when we brought the program back, but more recently, like June Jones, I think came in here and for the first time started winning, and had some winning seasons, had some fun offenses, had some NFL players, the Emmanuel Sanders, the Cole Beasleys, those kind of guys, and then Kelvin Beecham's, and then on top of that went and won a bowl game, and so he took our program to a step kind of that we hadn't been to in a while in the process, right? Chad Morris comes in and creates a buzz about recruiting and brings kind of that top level recruiting mindset to the school that hadn't existed, right? And so that kind of helped a little. And then Sonny came in, which I was allowed, that allowed me to get here. And I'm grateful that he hired me. And, in our second year, we won 10 games. That was another thing we hadn't done since before the death penalty. And then, I think that's also when we started embracing the city of Dallas and the Triple D and all the things that we wanted to do, and realized that's when the portal became a thing. And so, okay, well, if we're not in a power conference, how can we get power conference level players here to compete at the level we want to? And so I think it all just has added up. I've said it before, it's like a pickle jar effect. They all were trying to get the lid off, and they never got it off. But by the time we got here, we were able to pop the lid off because a lot of work had been done by so many before. So, and that's just speaking from a football and coaching standpoint, not to mention all the greats and alumni, from the Paul Lloyds to the Bill Armstrongs to David Miller to obviously Gerald Turner's been kind of a consistent piece of that the whole time. So, I think he played a great role. It was part of our story and our journey over the last couple decades to get us back to this stage where we felt like our program belonged, be on the national stage and be in the college football playoff, be a nationally ranked top 10 team. And there's 12 teams out of 134 or whatever we got that get to compete for a national title, and we're one of them. And so grateful for all the guys that came before and the work that they put in to help us. And I should say this, all the players that came before. So many players that endured not winning seasons to get our program back to here. This is for them too.
All right.
Yep.
Exactly.